Welcome to the Wasteland News Network and the first episode of 2021. I'm going to give you guys a bit of a preview of what we can expect in Fallout 76 this year, but first, a very special happy 15th birthday to Cole. Happy birthday, Cole. First up this year, we will have the conclusion of the Brotherhood of Steel questline. This will be what is the third chunk called Steel Rain. And Steel Dawn and Fractured Steel we already have. They were combined together to create the first part. And again, the second part, Steel Rain, will appear in 2021. Here is a look at the 2020 roadmap, and moving to 2021, we have a number of things: expeditions, new daily ops, and perk loadouts. Let's take a closer look. Expeditions is the one event that I'm looking forward to this year. Recently, project lead Jeff Gardner and lead quest designer Brianna Schneider sat down and gave an interview in regards to expeditions. A lot of big changes that Bethesda has talked about are either in active development or being discussed. Perk loadouts so players can swap their builds with ease, expanding more on the new camp shelters, and the ability to play with mods are all being planned or developed. And whether or not Fallout 76's map will continue to change over time, to be honest with you, we've saturated it pretty well with Wastelanders and Brotherhood of Steel, Jeff Gardner said. We are looking at expeditions to be a way to maybe do something off-map. We have a big list of locations. We're settling in on one right now, so we're looking at those to be the ways for people to experience different areas of the Fallout universe. So these will potentially be entirely new open world areas, and he likens it to other Fallout expansions like Far Harbor, in which you interact with a vehicle and head to an entirely separate map. We know that those are some of our most successful expansions for our previous games, and we want to be able to bring that experience to Fallout 76 for certain, he says. And he cautions that expeditions, a feature that they have yet to explain in detail, aren't coming soon. They'd originally been planned for late this year, that would have been late 2020, but were an early victim of COVID-19 delays. As they're now narrowing in on a setting for an expedition, Gardner says it's a ways out, but they plan on hoping to fit it in this year. And whether or not these will cost, they said over in the Elder Scrolls Online, they now roll out new explorable zones at a yearly pace, and they're sold as expansions. And so far, Fallout 76's content updates and story additions have been free. Will that change? Gardner says that he can't be certain of the future, but that the plan right now is to stick to that. Now, that may change now that Microsoft owns ZeniMax Studios and, in a sense, Bethesda Game Studios, so I have a feeling that expansions will more than likely cost us. And for those of you who have played Fallout 4 and explored like Nuka World or Far Harbor, we were able to camp there. So that's the one thing that with expeditions, whether or not it costs anything, I'm curious to know if we can set up camps there. And that gives us another alternative besides our normal world camping and the shelters to be able to travel to an expedition or expansion area and build there too, like I did in Far Harbor. We couldn't in Nuka World, but we could in Far Harbor. So since he hinted at Far Harbor, I'm going to say I'm really hoping that we'll be able to build camps there in the expansion areas. And here's a look at the updated community calendar for 2021. And as you can see, for the first 3 months, there are 3 items to take particular look at. In the end of January, we have a script surplus weekend. In February, Gold Rush weekend. And in March, a vendor caps aplenty weekend. Now, the last time we had a vendor caps aplenty weekend, that was, I think, a few weeks ago, and that enabled us to cash in at the vendors double of what we normally do. So I originally reported that 3 things were going to increase: the ability to cash in more script, more gold, and more caps. So it's looking like they're going to test these things once a month, or they're going to end up being just special events that happen that enable us to cash in those things. I mean, I'd really like to be able to cash in more script, more gold, and sell more things to vendors, but I don't think that's going to be a permanent thing right now. Now, we are going to get an increase in our stash space. And right now I'm a hoarder. Seriously, I need those extra 400 pounds to go from 800 to 1200 pounds. So I'm looking forward to that with the quality of life updates. As far as those other three things, if they're once a month, I can deal with that. I'd like them to be permanent, but they could just be kind of testing the ground to see how the servers and us players handle it. I did do a previous video on the quality of life updates just to talk about that. First up, as I mentioned, the stash size increase, and also really good stuff in regards to the Pip-Boy menu changes. We're going to see that aid is going to be separated into food and chems, and that our apparel will be separated into armor and apparel. And we're also going to be able to see what individual items like 1-star, 2-star, or 3-star legendaries are available for sale at people's camps. So that is a huge list of quality updates. We should see those at the very beginning in January of this year. And events are always very popular. In February, we're going to see the return of the Hunt for the Treasure Hunter, the Mole Miner Pale event, and the return again of Fashnot. And that is it. If I hear of anything else that's coming up in the next few weeks, hopefully there will be a new Inside the Vault here in the first week of January. Until then, thanks so very much for watching, and I'll see you out in the wasteland.